I can snip it. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So now we're going to meet them to what? We're going to meet them to show them houses. How many houses are we going to show them?
1,000,000.
Just one.
3.
There's probably only one out there for them, right? We don't want to show them any more than 5. So we're going to talk about likes and dislikes when we are showing them properties. We're going to show them house, and I heard 5. 5 is the max. Why? Because as you start getting past 5, it's like that toilet with that bedroom with, is that the one with the backyard? Oh my God, I don't even know anymore. Okay. The other thing is when you're showing them houses, the great way to do it is, I would have, even though we're in electronic worlds, a printout of the MLS sheets. I would also give them, I always had my own branded pen. I also had my own little buyer consult printed out, and I put it inside a binder to give them a little binder. I put a little notepad in there. Inside that, I also put my vendor list of who they could potentially use. Okay, we're going to get, they're never going to bring it back. Here's the thing. If they bring it back to you on the next appointment, what behavior are they leading with?
They're not ready to work with you.
A C, okay? If they bring back the binder and everything that you gave them on the first appointment, they are a C behavior. Right there, you better make sure you know what the efficiency is on the hot water heater and the furnace, and when the roof was changed out, what's the square footage. Those C behaviors are going to bring back, and they're going to want details.
Mary Beth, I had somebody ask me what the utility bills were on a monthly basis.
That is a C behavior, okay? Either a C or somebody who is very, very stretched for money and doesn't want, and is very concerned and nervous, is a high S. However, Scott, that is a common question that you would get. That person is closing. You need to close when that question comes, because do they care what the bills are if they don't like the house? No. Okay. So when they ask that question, you know that they are serious about this house. When they start to go, gee, do you think a twin bed do you think a full bed would fit in this room? They like the house. When they look at it and they go, do you think my couch, I have a pit, I have like a sectional. They like the house, okay? Those are signs. Even if they go, oh, I don't love that the bathroom is right there. That means that they like the house, but they don't like that the bathroom's right there. Start thinking creatively. How would they change the position of that bathroom? Could they open the door on the other side of the wall? I had a bathroom once that was inside a kitchen. It was a house that was built in 1960. They put a little tiny bathroom. On the other side of the, yeah, all the time. Who wants to poop? Who wants to poop when people are eating outside? Like, it's crazy.
I went to visit my uncle, and I'm like, what is that curtain? And they pulled it back. It was a bathtub.
Listen, that is, we call, there's what is it called? Obsolete, something, functionally obsolete. That's a functionally obsolete need. We have bathrooms everywhere now. We don't need that extra half bath downstairs in the kitchen.
Well, they used to have shared baths back then.
Yeah, they had the Jack, we call it Jack and Jill now, right? Because you can walk through the bathroom and you can be on either.
I mean, they had like a common bath area where you shared it with your neighbors.
Oh,
so
yes.
They put it in the kitchen or wherever it was because they were tired of that.
Yeah. Okay. So perfect. So you start thinking creatively. For me, it was, let's open up the wall in the hallway because it's the same other wall, and then we could get it out of the kitchen. That sold the $525,000 house in West Long Branch. Okay. So the likes and the dislikes. What do you like about this house? What don't you like about this house? Oh, I'm not going in that. I want it to have a colonial. Yes, but do me the favor. We already made the appointment. Let's go. I want to know what you love and what you don't love about this house.
Yes,
this kitchen had the best kitchen. Go ahead, Alvar.
You had said to bring them the vendor list when you meet to show them houses. Is that something you would want to do at your buyer consult so they can get a pre-approval so they know their budget before you start showing them homes?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this here, I actually need to change this, and I'll move this around, but the buyer consult, the vendor, the notepad, all of that actually goes to up here. Now, for me, I would do the buyer consult and take them out all in one appointment. Okay, so we're going to ask a couple questions over the phone, over the Zoom, but we're going to meet at Starbucks. We're going to meet at the office. We're going to meet somewhere neutral so that I know I'm safe. And then I'm going to ask them questions. I'm going to go into the whole buyer consult, and I'm going to have maybe 2 or 3 houses lined up for us to go see. That's a full day of working with the buyer, but that might be the first appointment. Yes, Harleen.
At what point are you, do you want to have the pre-approval in your hand? Obviously before taking them out?
Yes, for sure. This is where we're going to have the conversation about process and pre-approval. And that's where, when they come to meet me to go see houses prior to that, they need to have their pre-approval. So thank you.
I have a question. So I have a buyer who's in Brooklyn, and like they won't come out and see anything unless they think it looks perfect for them.
Yes, welcome to Brooklynites. Yes.
So do you have any suggestions on how to like get them out? I've suggested, kind of get a feel for the areas. It's better to be in the houses to really understand what you like and you don't like, but it's yeah.
So I said to Carrie the other day, sometimes you might have to do a little bit of that legwork. You might have to go as if you are the buyer and go to those houses that come on the market that might be of interest to say, let me tell, hey, listen, Kira, I'm at this house. I'd love to grab a FaceTime with you real quick. Like, hey, do you like this? How about this room over here? I know you said you wanted to have a big entertaining kitchen. Is this something that would be great for you? I'm just trying to catch what you are looking for. Would it make sense for you to come out like maybe one weekend so that we could physically see them together? Because you're not going to have a feel. I mean, you really do need to drive around the areas. They might love a house, especially when they're coming from Brooklyn. The worst thing that they do is they don't come out here. They settle on a town because they've been looking online or somebody said, and then when they come out here, they're like, oh no, I don't want to live here. I didn't realize that. Or they find the best house, the house that is like amazing. It fits all of their boxes, but it's actually in like Cape May, but it's actually somewhere where they're not going to buy. And you're like, you're not moving there. You said you need to be, yeah, well, maybe we could stretch it. They look at New Jersey and they're like, yeah, we know Jersey's like all farmland. We can get there real fast. You're like, no, you need to come out. My area of Monmouth County, all our buyers were Brooklynites. They would go from Brooklyn to Staten Island to New Jersey. And they would go from Brooklyn to Staten Island to Middlesex County to Monmouth County. So you need to know that progression. I also might I don't know, are there any other buyers that are from Brooklyn that maybe she could talk to? Is there anybody that has done this before? They should talk to her because they will be able to shed some light that she probably needs to get herself out there. All right, but for the purposes of this, I want to keep going because it's 3:00 and I'm going to push my next appointment. It's okay. We're showing houses. So now we're showing houses. The reason why I want those MLS sheets printed out is because I say to you, Roddy, are you going to buy this house? And you're like, no. And I crumple it up, throw it out. Why are we going to talk about that house if you're not going to buy the house? I don't want you to go, yeah, but remember the first one? Well, you said you weren't going to buy that house though. No, I'm not going to buy that house. Well, then stop comparing it to that house. I want to minimize, I want to limit, I want to, what's it called? Like get them down to their true options for the day. And if we walk away from the day and they hated all 5, back to the drawing board. I'm not going to go out with them again. We're going to have another consult and we're going to go through what are their real must-haves, because clearly I don't have it. I missed something. I must have. If you hated all 5 houses, I must have missed something. So now we find the house. They want to write an offer, right? You are writing up a full contract. You are writing a contract. You are not writing an LOI. You are not writing, if you were in New York, you may be writing an LOI, but an LOI is a letter of intent. Okay, letter of intent is an LOI. In New York, the attorney writes the contract. In New Jersey, you write the contract. Okay, so the conversation there is we need to go through the entire contract, read it with them, follow it, open it up, have it, highlight certain things with them. Now, if you're on Zoom and you're doing it that way, I mean, you can still pull up the contract, go through the contract with them. Okay, this is where I would put, the names. This is where, okay, this part on the contract is where we're gonna put our price and our terms. So we're gonna get back to that, but let's keep going. Now we're gonna talk about, here's your inspection clause, go through the entire contract. Okay, and so what would you need for this? You need a contract. Okay, now we wrote the contract, what happens?
Gotta submit it.
Okay, great. We write the contract, and with the contract, we get buyer signatures first. Okay, and then when we get the buyer signatures, we're gonna submit it to who?
Agent,
To the listing agent, right?
yep.
Then what happens? What
It's
are they
an
gonna do? What are the three things that could happen?
It'll either be accepted or rejected.
Or countered.
Or counter offered.
Thank you, Arcady. Accept, reject, or counter. Mr. Seller, you have three opportunities. We can accept this offer, we can reject this offer, or you can counter it with your terms. What would you like to do? Now, you submit it to the listing agent. Now what's gonna happen? They're gonna negotiate with you. Negotiating. Now, we're not getting into the multiple offers and the this and that and the highest and best. However, you may have to go through in this market a highest and best. And we can have a whole conversation on that next week if you want.
Did you submit the contract with an email saying like all their information though?
You
That's
find
what
out
I
from the agent how they want it. I
Yeah.
usually go through dot loop.
So here's what I would advise on that is I personally, this is me personally. I get the signatures from through dot loop. And then I have to make, or DocuSign, whichever system you're using. I have to imagine though, that not every agent knows how to use dot loop or DocuSign, right? So my opinion, download this. Download the docs and send in an email with the attachments rather than sending them the loop. Now, to Roddy's point, the minute that they accept your offer, then I would go ahead and let's just go with accepted offer, send over the final contract for signatures through the electronic way. And also both through electronic and paper, via email where they could wet sign and send back. I don't care how they're gonna get it. Here's the one thing I don't want you guys to do. Oh, I sent that offer to them. I sent it through dot loop. I sent the email. Did you call the agent and let them know that it's coming? Did you text them to say, hey, did you get my?
Yeah, that's what I usually do is send a text after I send them the documents. I send a text. I just sent you the contract. Please confirm that you received it.
Okay, confirm with the agent that the offer was received. Send the final contract for signatures through the electronic and paper, both. Both, because we do not want to miss that. Why? Because time is of the essence. Time is of the essence, meaning that today is Wednesday. What's today? Tuesday. Today's Tuesday. You have an offer, it went in. You got it signed by tomorrow. If that seller can't figure out how to sign your contract, what's happening? We're pushing into a weekend. We push into a weekend, your client may lose that house. So it is very important for you to be on top of it when you are putting offers in and they agree to go ahead and accept. The worst thing that happens is that phone call that, Stella, I hate to tell you this, we got another offer and their sellers are going to go with the other offer. And you're like, what? No. And you're like, I honestly wasn't able to get the contract signed fast enough. And here it is, Friday, 5 o'clock. We're going into the weekends, right? Okay. Urgency, guys, urgency. So now let's just assume offer is signed, confirm with the agent that the offer was, so now the seller is signing off. Now, what do you have?
Attorney review.
Yep.
You have an executory contract that leads you right into attorney review. Okay, because we're in New Jersey, because you wrote it on that New Jersey contract, we now have attorney review. Attorney review is not necessarily 3 days. Attorney review is the attorneys handle the time. Okay, so the attorney review, it's going to go back and forth with the attorneys.
Mhm.
And so you need to educate your buyer on talk to your attorney very quickly.
Do you
Don't
hand
wait.
the contract to their attorney or the client hands that contract to the attorney?
You do. So the seller is signing off, you're an attorney review. Send contract to all parties, meaning attorneys, agents,
Lenders.
thank you, lenders, even title, okay? You have title, we have Carnegie Title. You should be using our title company for no other reason than Brian Allen's awesome and it's our company. Okay, so send contracts to all parties, attorneys, agents, lenders, title. Also to your client. You don't send it to the other client, guys, but you send it to your client. Here's your executed contract, basically. Now the attorneys are going to go back and forth. You're going to see letters back and forth from the attorneys. At this point, do we understand that the deal can get canceled? Yes. Deal can get canceled for any reason. There has to be no reason. Today, I'm going to cancel this contract. Mr. Seller, you're an attorney review. You can do whatever the hell you want. Same thing with the buyer. The buyer found another house. You can cancel the contract. What do you need to do? Talk to your attorney. While it's in attorney review, the only communication that matters is the attorney communication. If you and the agent decide to negotiate something on the side for your clients and nobody told the attorneys and the attorneys took it upon themselves to get out of attorney review, well, that's what it is, because the attorneys are going to control that. Okay. Now, what happens when we get out of attorney review? So attorney review concludes. Attorney review concludes. Now, it typically.
Sorry, Maribeth.
Yes, Parul.
So you said to send the contract to all parties, attorneys, agents, lenders, title, your client. Isn't the listing agent supposed to do that? Or are we supposed to do that? Because that's what I heard, that after we send in the signed contract, we do contact our lender and attorney review, but it's actually the listing agent who.
There's no rule.
Okay.
I'm aggressive. I'm going to take charge of this.
Okay.
I do not want to wait for a listing agent who has maybe 3 other listings. She's negotiating for the day. Maybe 2 other offers are coming in from her own people. I'm not waiting for that. I'm taking this and I'm sending it right over to the attorneys. I'm going to get everybody, let's go. Got to get out of review. Remember, I'm telling you from the buyer's agent's perspective. Parul, if I'm the listing agent, I'm taking my sweet time. Unless I feel like this is the best buyer that the seller's ever going to get, let's get out. I'm just going to take my time. So now attorney review concludes. The letter will say attorney review has ended. At that point, what happens? What's the next thing that has to happen?
Inspection.
Inspection.
Okay, so 2 things have to happen. Inspection has to get ordered.
And appraisal.
Appraisal has to happen.
Mortgage commitment.
Mortgage commitment's going to come later. But
And
yup, it does happen. Yes, mortgage commitment.
also order the CO, because I know that takes a long time.
Okay, so we're the CO is the responsibility of the seller unless it states differently. Okay. And the next thing is they need to put their deposit monies.
Oh, right.
And their deposit monies have nothing to do with the inspection.
Mhm.
Speaking of
It's-
the inspection, when you submit for an OPRA for the home?
Okay, so, yep. Now, these are some things. Oprah, open permit, something. Right? It's going to tell you if there's any open permits on the property. It's going to let you know if there were permits that were opened and closed. And this is where you're going to find out if somebody's got an oil tank buried underground, properly closed. My oil
Yeah.
tank was underground. It was properly closed. My buyer pulled an Oprah. They forced me to take it out because it's no longer that rule. And it cost me $7,000, which was very small compared to what it could have been. So as the buyer's representative, I do encourage you to pull an Oprah. You have to go down to the city and you have to pull the Oprah. So go to the zoning, go to the building department, go to code, and building, code, zoning, and pull the Oprah.
Sorry,
Some
Mary Beth,
towns you can do it online with some
Yep.
towns.
Hajar, what?
when do you pull the Oprah?
When you're out of review and you're going into the inspections, and now your buyer has to perform.
Got it.
So they have to pull the Oprah, which is the biggest thing is oil tank or any permits that are not closed out. That can really stop you from. The other thing is like Stella said, the CO, that's not for you to order as a buyer's agent, but it is for you to remind that seller's agent, hey, did you get the CO scheduled yet? Because some towns are 3 and 4 and 5 weeks out.
Yeah.
Okay, and this will hold you up if you're getting a mortgage on the property, because they will ask for the certificate of occupancy. Some people are probably like, what is CO? It is certificate of occupancy. Okay, now we're almost done actually. Then the inspection has to get, typically in your contract, it's going to say anywhere from 10 to 14 days after attorney review ended. That's the day. That's the counting of the days. Now, this is going to be inside of the contract. Inside the contract, when the attorneys go back and forth, they're going to specify when that inspection needs to be done. I advise you to read those letters. Have knowledge of what the contingencies are. These are contingencies. The inspection is a contingency. If things don't go right with the inspection, you have the opportunity to negotiate and possibly cancel the contract. If you don't get an appraisal, or if the appraisal doesn't come in proper, the appraisal is going to be sent by the bank. The lender will be sending the appraiser. Also, the buyer, so you know, the buyer will have to pay for this up front. Like right now, $750, $850, $550, whatever. They will pay right now.
So when you send the contract to all the parties, where it says like lender, hold on, attorney review 3 days.
Yeah.
It there is, do you then have to let the lender know, hey, they're out of attorney review, so then they go and contact the appraiser?
Yes. Great.
Okay.
Yep. So when attorney review 3 days, talk to your attorney, attorney review concludes. At this point, great point, the lender should absolutely know that we're out. Because this is where they have to start. I mean, they should have been working on it already, getting the documents from our client already. But once that happens and they get out of attorney review, we have to get the appraisal, which they have to order. Lender will send the appraiser. And then we also, like you said, the mortgage commitment's going to be coming up. The mortgage commitment is the other big contingency. And I'm going to highlight contingencies in here when I post this, okay? So mortgage commitment, typically, you will know what day, and here's what I would also suggest. Some of you may want to, create a little timeline. And I used to have a flow chart. I'll look for it to be able to give it to you guys, but a date of when this contract comes out of review, I want to know that my mortgage commitment, well, that's due on April 16th. And my appraisal has to be done before that. And the closing is whatever. You might want to put some times to this so that you know, and then put it in your Google Calendar so that you know, hey, we got 2 days left. So give yourself some alerts, right?
I would also keep the buyer informed, so let them know.
Absolutely. Their
That's
attorney
the
might
way.
not be notifying them. They probably haven't bought a house in a while. Typically 90% of your people are buying one house at a time. And so now we have the appraisal. Wait, so let's get at attorney review ends. You're telling your buyer, hey, listen, you got to get those deposit monies. Where does the deposit monies sit?
Escrow.
Seller's attorney.
Seller's attorney.
Seller's attorney, right? At that point, you guys are already in contract. Here's how I explain it to the buyer. Mr. Buyer, Mr. Seller has to take his house off the market. He's committed to you. At this point, we need to give him something a little bit to make him feel comfortable that he's not wasting his time. That money can't be released to him. It's just being held by his attorney. Well, what if they sue me? Well, yeah, that money would be held in either attorney's escrow, and it's the same. It doesn't matter. They can't release it.
So the check is written to the owners, though?
No, the check is written to the seller's attorney.
Oh, okay.
Seller's attorney, absolutely. Seller's attorney trust account. So it goes and it sits there. Then you are pulling the certificate of, pulling the Oprah, getting the inspection. Now, the inspection has to, somebody asked me today about the inspection. Do you go to the inspection? Who wants to answer that?
You
Yeah.
do.
I do, yeah.
Okay. Do you stay the whole time?
Yes.
Yeah, you
Okay.
should.
Okay. So you can, and I just want to make sure that you're not talking while you're there. Okay. You can go bring your stuff and you can go sit down at their kitchen table or sit in your car or sit somewhere and tell them that, listen, this is your time, Mr. Buyer. You bought this inspection. This is your time to do every stitch of looking at this house. And I will be right over here because this is a licensed New Jersey inspector. I am not a licensed New Jersey inspector. If you have any questions, I will be here for you. But I really wouldn't have any answers. Okay. If the homeowner is there and they make it nice and they're all together and you're like, you know what am I sitting here for another hour or two? Because it could be a 4-hour gig if it's a big house and they got to go outside, inside, upstairs, downstairs, they're in the attic. It could be your whole day. So if you are just learning in the phase that you're in, I would advise you, yes, you go. But bring your laptop, bring your stuff to work on, because you should not be walking around with the inspector the entire time giving your 2 cents. That's where you get yourself in trouble, and then that becomes a liability for us. I also don't advise just letting them go. Oh, the homeowner's going to be there. They're going to let them in. Oh, the inspector has a key because he can get into the lockbox. No. You go, you open the door, you make nice, you figure it out. Are you staying? Are you going? Do they really need you? And if there's any question, you stay. So the inspection is ordered. The appraisal, I tell the appraisal, hey, wait, can you try to show up the same day of the inspection? And also the same day of the inspection, I'm asking the guy to give me his deposit monies if he hasn't already sent it into to the attorney. So all this stuff is happening really fast, 14 through, all this stuff is happening real fast.
Sorry, Mary Beth. So
Yeah.
we take the check for the deposit money?
So you don't have to. I just have, if you have a buyer who's got a bad habit where they're not going to follow through with anything, I would just ask them to bring it to the inspection and then I will make sure it gets to the attorneys.
And how would we send it to the attorneys if it's a live check? Email? Sorry, this is a stupid question.
Well, on the buy side, I would hope you have a local attorney. And if you do, I would just drive it to them.
Okay,
That is the best way. Use the car for phone calls, drive it right to them.
got it. Perfect. Okay.
There's a question about that. It has to be a certified check, right?
Yes, Helen. Yep. Perfect. Certified bank check.
Going through the process now. I just got my offer accepted yesterday.
Yay.
So we are in attorney review now, and now I'm like, okay, she's asking me, when do I give the money for the down payment? I'm like, I don't know.
So in attorney review, it will say, you probably put it there that she's supposed to give the deposit monies 10 days after attorney review concludes.
Okay.
And if the attorney didn't change that, then that's when she's supposed to give it. So the minute she comes out of attorney review, honestly, guys, there is no other option. Just write the check and get it to the attorney. If you have a buyer that's like, well, I want to go to the inspection first and then I'll give the money. That's not going to fly because the inspection might be next week. And then you got all these feelings and emotions of you're not giving the money. Here's what's going to happen, Helen. If that client doesn't, it sounds like she's going to give you the check whenever you tell her. But if she doesn't give you the check and now she's in her feelings and she's like, well, I don't want to give 34,000. I had this happen. I'll give him 20,000. That's it. I'm like, yeah, but the contract said 34. What the hell is the difference? 34 or 20? We're going to close, right? Okay, so put the deposit that you said and you committed to. The truth is, if they do not put the amount by the day, they're in breach of contract.
Okay.
And that seller can turn around and say, Helen, that's really cute. And we had like 3 other offers that were dying to get in here that were actually more, but we went with your offer and they came in later. We're killing your deal because they breached the contract.
Okay. Well,
So-
yeah, attorney's reviewing it now, so hopefully by tomorrow we'll have the final contract, and then there it'll have the date of when the check is due.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And also I would tell you, when you go into attorney review, introduce yourself to the attorneys.
Yeah, I
Introduce
called
yourself.
her attorney. I haven't called the seller's attorney.
No, you don't need to call the seller's attorney, just your client.
Right, so the check goes to the seller's attorney, right? Not the buyer's attorney?
Correct.
Okay.
So you would only need to just find out where they are to drop it off. However, I just, as far as you're on the buyer side, if this attorney that you have that's working with your client right now isn't like on it, like you need to be on them to be on it.
Okay.
So it's like a nice, like, hi, this is Helen with Keller Williams. I just want to introduce myself.
Yeah.
We have a mutual client.
Yeah, I did that this morning and I recommended a attorney from our preferred vendor list.
Perfect. All right, so now she's coming out of review. She sends the deposit monies. You then start to do all this inspection stuff, book the inspection, have her get the lender knows that we're out of review. They're gonna get the appraiser, the Oprah is pulled, the certificate of occupancy is scheduled. The next thing that happens is the mortgage commitment.
I have a quick question about those steps, like the deposit money, the Oprah and CO, the inspection and the appraisal. Is that all happening at the same time, or is one contingent upon the other?
No.
Just kind of like,
They're all happening at the same time. Nothing is contingent upon anything. Inspections not related to certificate of occupancy, not related to Oprah, not related to appraisal, nothing.
okay.
They all just have to happen. Now, sometimes when you have an inspection, there's about 17 million items that come up on the list of things that you need to fix. And that buyer then has a few days to send their wish list over to the sellers. Hey, our inspection came in and we would like these 7 items fixed. Okay, so after that inspection, there is the opportunity to negotiate, maybe not so much in this market, but you can negotiate on the things that need to be fixed. Inspection issues. This is also where if radon showed up, if
how do we know the
termites
timeline?
showed up, go ahead, Rosalia.
How do we know the timeline? I know that we just said we know about the checks due 10 days because it says after the mortgage was after the attorney review. But how do you know, like, how long do you know when you're supposed to do the inspection? How long, is there like a timeline?
Yeah, it's all in the contract. If you really read the contract, guys, it will say that the buyer has to do their inspection within, and there's a blank, and it says, if you leave this blank, then it will be 14 days. When it goes to the attorney's hands, the attorney usually changes it to 10 days. Maybe they leave it as 14 days, but you would just reference in the attorney review letters the same paragraph that they wrote to complement what was in the original contract. Nabila?
The process for New York, as you know, is a little different.
Yes.
We present the offer sheet first.
Yes.
Could you find out how New York is, the process is different from the inspection onward? I only got to that
Absolutely.
point.
So, I mean, the only thing that's really different, honestly, because I had my license there, the only thing
Okay.
that's different with New York is that the inspection is going to be done first.
Okay, so then the
If you want to
Oprah
put
and
in,
everything, that
yeah,
goes.
if you want to put an offer on a property,
Mhm.
that's your offer, because you could do an inspection on the property prior to you actually getting in contract. So if your offer is put out, it's challenging because the buyer has to spend money on the inspection
Right.
before they even know the house is theirs.
But at the same time, it's commitment. The offer is serious. Also, as far as the down payment, when would that be asked for, or how
That
much?
is going to be
even?
inside the contract. So that is typically same thing. It's typically 10 or 14 days out of attorney review.
After the inspection, right?
Well, the inspection is happening way before a contract is actually writing.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, monies don't come until you're in contract.
Okay.
And that process is the same. It's 10 to 14 days after you're actually in contract.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that the inspection is done right before all of that to make sure that that buyer wants it with
Right.
those terms.
Okay.
So with the New York contract, once you get into contract, you're pretty much done. I mean, your buyer now just needs to perform on their mortgage.
Right.
And you have to get the Oprah and the certificate of occupancy. But as far as inspections and negotiating back and forth, there really is none because your buyer knew everything going into their offer.
Okay. And one last question. Is there a minimal amount of how much you should put in escrow?
So in deposit monies, I would tell you that you want your offer to be as strong as possible. However, I would never, advise, unless it was, I wouldn't advise putting more than 10%.
Okay.
I mean, 10 to 20% is enough. If you have 20% down, let's say you have a buyer who's putting $100,000 down and it's a $300,000 property. That's 33%. I would never advise them to put all of that up front. I would say, you know what, why don't you put 66,000 up front and then bring the other 34,000 to closing. So it's specific to each buyer. You also have to recognize, are you going up against many other offers? If you are, your deposit monies might matter. So if you do have a strong deposit, maybe you do put it all up front. Okay, but in the big picture, it could be 3.5, it could be 5, it could be 10, it could be 20. You know, it could be whatever. All right, and then the mortgage commitment. So the mortgage commitment is usually 45 days after attorney review. There's going to be a date that's in the contract as to when the mortgage commitment is due. This needs to be told to the lender and the buyer. It needs to be reiterated, because the only reason why that mortgage commitment would be held up is because that buyer is not getting the right documents to the lender, or that lender really is not a good lender. Okay, or that lender is too busy right now and they don't know how to handle what's going on with the market. So the buyer has to be on top of it, because once the buyer supplies all their documents, it's just a matter of processing, going into underwriting, all of that fun stuff. So once they got the mortgage commitment, we're good to go. Now you have a couple things that are going to happen. Clear to close. You are waiting for.
Are
What?
all these dates including weekends, like the 10 days? Does it start on a Saturday if that's the first day?
You got to read through the contract. One says business days, one says calendar days, but it does specify, Rosalia.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, no, I'm just letting you know it's there. It is there, especially that wording, because it would matter if it's business days or calendar days. Anyway, so now you get the mortgage commitment, you're good to go. It comes over, you see the mortgage commitment. That means there might be some, and watch out for this, subject to. This may mean that your buyer still needs to satisfy some requirements, like they didn't get the appraisal in yet, so it's subject to the appraisal. Like they need to still give us bank statements. They told us that this is what it sounds like, but I don't see it, so it's subject to them getting us bank statements. Always look for the fine line. Does it say subject to something? What is it? Help them complete it. Clear to close means that you are getting your docs. You're going to get your closing documents. You are going to have 3 days that you have to have. Your buyer gets 3 days to review. Then you can close. And the last thing is you are going to schedule a walkthrough with the agent. And you are going to make sure that the property is broom swept. Broom swept means that they've taken all their personal items away. It does not mean that the house was professionally cleaned. It also is therefore to make sure that all the items that were to be fixed were done, and all of the items that were supposed to be there are still there. Like a refrigerator in the garage, a washer and dryer that all of a sudden disappeared on the walkthrough. But you have inside the contract, which I just want to back here, when you're submitting the contract, please make sure you print out the MLS sheet at that time and attach. Why do I say that? Because I have been in an experience where the agent changed the commission on me when I got to the closing table. And I was like, no, look at my contract, because it's right there. It's 2.5. It's not 2, it's 2.5. I've been at the table where all of a sudden washer and dryer are missing. Oh, I didn't think they wanted it. Nope, it's in the contract. Whether they wanted it or not, you were selling it with the house. Therefore, you owe us $1,000. So those things happen at the walkthrough when you realize things were done, things weren't done. Then your buyer has to closing funds. They're gonna have to go to Helen, they're gonna have to go to the bank again, and they're gonna have to either wire or get a bank check. The day of closing, they're gonna be told what the amount is. Why? Because there are escrows, there are taxes that need to be prorated. And so every day, the amount that that buyer needs to bring to closing changes. And then you close. And then you get your check right there at the table. There's no reason why you shouldn't get your check at the table, okay? And then you are happy.
This was fabulous. Fabulous, Mary Beth.
Yes, thank you. I really needed this.
Can you please email this to us?
So much.
You guys like it?
Love it.
Yeah, no,
Like,
absolutely.
here's me, I'm sitting here like, are they still there? Because I don't know, I can only see 4 of them.
This is so
Love
necessary.
it.
Can we get a copy of that?
Yeah, that was the point of me typing this all. I would have just been
Thank you.
talking.
We
So
don't
I
need
have to
Mary
make it
Beth.
look pretty. I'll send it to somebody and they'll make it look pretty and I'll post it out and I'll email it out also,
I
okay?
can make it look
Okay.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you get one printed for New York too? Sorry.
I will make you a New York one, yes, absolutely.
you.
Alvar, what did you say?
I said I can make it look pretty for you if you want.
Oh, fantastic. Share, I'm gonna share it with you right now, okay?
Yeah, this is the document. Can you please share the video as well?
Yes.
Thank you.
This is great. This is really beneficial to everyone, I think.
Okay, fantastic. We still have to go a little deeper on what some of those conversations look like and then what some expectations are. I'd like to also do what the listing looks like. Okay, so, all right, guys, I gotta go. I think I blew off my 3 o'clock, but it was well worth it.
Oops.
Thank you, Mary Beth. Good to see you,
Thank
Nabiba,
you.
Rodney, Parole.
Okay,
All righty.
thanks,
Good
guys.
seeing you all. Take care.